Hello friends, welcome to Interactive Audiobook. Today I want to start with a question that may change the way you look at history and power around the world. Have you ever wondered whether the history we learn is the complete truth, or is it only a carefully written story that hides something deeper? When we study history, we see wars, economic crises, political revolutions, and sudden changes in leadership. But what if many of these events are not random? What if, behind the visible events, there are invisible networks of influence? Groups of powerful interests, families, institutions, and alliances that quietly shape the direction of global events. This idea has fascinated researchers, historians, and writers for decades. Some people call this idea the concept of a global power structure, while others describe it using a dramatic phrase, the New World Order. In today's journey, we will explore this idea not as a fantasy, but as a perspective that encourages us to question how power works in the modern world. This discussion is inspired by interpretations found in books like New World Order by writers such as Ralph Epperson, which claim that behind political systems and economic systems, there may be deeper patterns of influence. Our goal here is not to create fear, but to develop awareness and critical thinking. So, take a deep breath, open your mind, and let us explore the hidden structures of power and influence that shape the modern world. You are listening to Interactive Audiobook, where ideas expand the way we understand reality. Now, let us begin with the first insight, the idea that sometimes truth hides in plain sight. History is often presented to us as a sequence of events, dates, wars, leaders, and revolutions. But historians themselves often say that history is written by those who win power. This means the official version of history may sometimes highlight certain facts while ignoring others. Many thinkers argue that behind major political decisions, there are networks of influence that include powerful banks, corporations, political alliances, and think tanks. These networks do not necessarily control everything, but they certainly influence decisions at very high levels. One symbol that people often discuss when talking about hidden influence is the famous pyramid and eye symbol printed on the back of the United States $1 bill. The unfinished pyramid with the eye above it has fascinated researchers for decades. Below the pyramid appear the Latin words Novus Ordo Seclorum, which translate roughly to a new order of the ages. Some interpret this symbol simply as a reference to the beginning of a new political era after the American Revolution. Others believe it reflects a deeper idea that powerful groups have long imagined a global system of governance where nations cooperate under a shared structure. This debate has continued for many years, and it raises an important question. How much power actually exists behind the scenes in global politics? Now, let us move to another important topic: secret groups and influential societies. Throughout history, many organizations have operated privately, including political societies, intellectual clubs, and fraternal organizations. One historical example often discussed is the Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt in Germany. The group originally promoted Enlightenment ideals such as reason, education, and criticism of traditional authority. However, over time, stories and theories developed claiming that such societies secretly attempted to influence governments and global events. Historians debate how powerful these groups really were, but the idea of hidden influence has remained part of cultural conversation for centuries. Other organizations, such as Freemasonry, also became subjects of speculation because of their private rituals, symbols, and networks among political and intellectual elites. Some researchers argue these societies were simply social clubs for powerful people, while others believe they created networks that helped shape political decisions. The truth is likely more complex, because influence in the real world usually works through relationships, networks, and shared interests, rather than secret master plans. Now, let us explore another fascinating topic: the language of symbols. Human civilization has always communicated ideas through symbols. From ancient temples to modern logos, symbols often carry layers of meaning beyond what we immediately see. For example, the all-seeing eye has appeared in many cultures, including ancient Egyptian symbolism, Christian iconography, and Enlightenment-era art. In some traditions, it represents divine knowledge or spiritual awareness. In political contexts, it sometimes symbolizes vigilance or oversight. The unfinished pyramid in the American seal represents strength and durability, while the missing top suggests that the project of building a nation is never complete. The people who study power structures sometimes interpret these symbols differently. They believe such imagery reflects elite networks that see themselves as architects of long-term global systems. Whether one accepts these interpretations or not, the deeper lesson remains important. Symbols influence perception. They shape how people think about authority, identity, and power. Now, let us move to a strategy that many political analysts describe as problem, reaction, solution. This concept suggests that sometimes crises lead societies to accept major changes that would normally face resistance. For example, when economic crises occur, governments may introduce new financial regulations. When security threats appear, governments expand surveillance or military power. The theory argues that sometimes powerful institutions benefit from crises because they create opportunities to introduce new systems of control or governance. History certainly shows that major crises often lead to new institutions. After the First World War, the League of Nations was created. After the Second World War, the United Nations was formed. These organizations aim to prevent future conflicts and encourage international cooperation. Some critics argue that global institutions slowly concentrate power, while supporters argue they promote stability and peace. The truth, again, may lie somewhere in the middle, where cooperation and power both exist simultaneously. Now, let us talk about the influence of finance, because economic systems are one of the most powerful forces shaping global politics. Many economists say that controlling money creation is one of the greatest sources of power in any society. Central banks manage national currencies, interest rates, and financial stability. In the United States, the Federal Reserve plays this role, while other countries have their own central banking institutions. Some critics argue that financial elites gain enormous influence through banking systems because governments depend on financial stability to operate. Supporters argue central banks are necessary to prevent economic collapse. This debate continues among economists, political scientists, and historians. What is clear, however, is that financial institutions play a major role in shaping global policy, trade, and development. Now, let us turn our attention to education, media, and information systems, because influence is not only about money or politics, it is also about ideas. The beliefs people hold about society, nation, and identity shape the future of civilizations. Education systems teach historical narratives, cultural values, and civic responsibilities. Media organizations decide which stories receive attention and which stories remain invisible. In the modern digital age, information flows faster than ever before, but it is also controlled by powerful platforms, algorithms, and corporate interests. Some analysts warn that concentration of media ownership may influence public opinion, while others argue that digital technology has actually increased diversity of voices. The truth again is complex, because information ecosystems contain both freedom and manipulation at the same time. This brings us to another important topic: global institutions. Many organizations, such as the United Nations, World Bank, and international regulatory bodies, attempt to coordinate global cooperation. Supporters say these institutions help solve shared challenges such as climate change, humanitarian crises, and international conflict. Critics argue that global institutions sometimes override national sovereignty or democratic control. This debate reflects a deeper question about the future of humanity. Should the world remain divided into independent nations or move towards stronger global cooperation? The answer may shape politics for generations. Now, let us examine technology, because modern power increasingly operates through digital systems. Smartphones, social media platforms, data networks, and artificial intelligence now influence how people communicate, work, and think. Many experts warn that digital surveillance has the potential to track behavior on an unprecedented scale. Governments and corporations collect massive amounts of data to improve services, security, and advertising. Some critics fear that such technology could one day create systems of control where financial transactions, travel, access, and communication are monitored. Supporters argue technology simply reflects how societies evolve and that regulation can protect freedom. The future of digital power remains one of the most important questions of our time. And finally, we arrive at the most important lesson hidden inside all these ideas. Whether or not one believes in a secret plan for world control, the deeper truth remains the same. Power always exists in networks. Powerful institutions shape politics, economics, and culture, often in ways ordinary people do not immediately see. But awareness changes everything. When individuals learn to question information, analyze systems, and think critically, they become far more difficult to manipulate. The purpose of exploring ideas like the New World Order is not to fall into fear, but to awaken curiosity. It reminds us that societies are complex, that power operates through institutions, and that informed citizens are essential for a healthy world. So, the next time you read history, watch global news, or observe economic change, ask yourself a deeper question. What forces might be operating behind the visible events? And how can awareness help you understand the world more clearly? This is the true power of knowledge. And this is the mission of interactive audiobook, where every idea invites you to think deeper, question assumptions, and explore the hidden patterns shaping our world.